good people. How are you? It's Veronica. In this video we go on a journey, or we take a trip, the trip that the Israelites took. The Israelites were coming from Egypt, led by Moses, their leader. Then Moses died and Joshua took over. Then they came through the wilderness and came to Jordan River. Then they could not cross the Jordan River because it was so huge. During the Bible times, Jordan River was so huge. But during now, because of the famine, of course, the size of the Jordan River, it's so small. So they come here. I'll show you where we are. Then they went, the first camp where they camped for 14 years was Gilgal. So today the video is from Land of Moab at Mount Nebo, where Moses was granted a view of Holy Land. Where can we see the Holy Land? Ah, okay. Now we are here at the view where Moses was granted a chance to see Holy Land.
Yeah, let's do a group shot right here if we can get everybody quickly. David, we're going to do a group shot if we can get people quickly.
Sorry.
Group shot. Georgie, quick. There. Group shot. Real quick.
Up on these stairs.
Yeah, go on up.
Meters from here, for example, to Galilee of Sea. Here you can see Lake Tiberias, which means Galilee of Sea. There is many miracles for Jesus in the Galilee of Sea. One of the miracles, he cast evil spirits from the madman in the Galilee of Sea, and also he feed 4,000 people with only 2 fish. So all of these miracles happened in the Galilee of Sea, and now there is a Dead Sea over there. Dead Sea, lowest point in the earth, 420 meters below sea level, and the Galilee of Sea, it's going from the north of Jordan to Jordan River, after Jordan River to Dead Sea. And this place is indicated for the life of a Prophet Moses, because here in this part was the last destination for Prophet Moses when he looked at the promised land from here, and then he died from this point.
Yes, now from Jordan, the land of the Moabites, we are going back to Holy Land. And we thank you so much, Paddy. Oh, we'll miss you. Yes. Yes. They are going to come back. I'm going to put for them videos. They will see Jordan, and you are the best tour guide. Thank you so much. And we were traveling with, look at that's been our driver, with North Travel and Pilgrimage.
Hello, Veronica, go inside.
Let's read Deuteronomy chapter 29. Renewal of the covenant. These are the terms of the covenants the Lord commanded Moses to make with the Israelites in Moab. We are in Moab, at Madaba city in Jordan. In addition to the covenant he had made with them at Horeb, Moses summoned all the Israelites and said to them, "Your eyes have seen all that the Lord did in Egypt to Pharaoh, to all his officials, and all his land. With your eyes you saw those great trials those signs and great wonders. But to this day, the Lord has not given you a mind that understands, or eyes that see, or ears that hear. Yet the Lord says, during the 40 years that I led you through the wilderness, your clothes did not wear out, nor did the sandals on your feet. You ate no bread and drank no wine or any fermented drink. I did this so that you might know that I am the Lord your God. When you reached this place, Sihon, king of Heshbon, and Og, king of Bashan, came out to fight against us, but we defeated them. We took their land and gave it to the inheritance of the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half tribe of Manasseh. Remember, these two tribes and half tribe of Manasseh, they didn't cross over to the promised land. They stayed on this side of Moab, the land of Moab. So carefully follow the terms of this covenant so that you may prosper in everything you do. Please continue to read the chapter. Deuteronomy chapter 31. Joshua to succeed Moses. Then Moses went out and spoke these words to all Israel. I am now 120 years old, and am no longer able to lead you. The Lord has said to me, you shall not cross the Jordan. The Lord your God himself will cross over ahead of you. He will destroy these nations before you, and you will take possession of their land. Joshua also will cross over ahead of you, as the Lord said. And the Lord will do to them what he did to Sihon and Og, the kings of the Amorites, whom he destroyed along with the land. The Lord will deliver them to you, and you must do to them all that I have commanded you. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them. For the Lord your God goes before you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Then Moses summoned Joshua and said to him in the presence of all Israel, be strong and courageous, for you must go with these people into the land that the Lord swore to their ancestors to give them. And you must divide it among them as their inheritance. The Lord himself goes before you, and he will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid, and do not be discouraged. Those were the words of Moses to Joshua, as Joshua now takes over, and we are going to cross the Jordan. Joshua chapter 1. After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord said to Joshua, son of Nun, Moses' aide, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now then, you and all these people get ready to cross the Jordan River into the land I'm about to give to them, to the Israelites. I'll give you every place where you set your foot, as I promised Moses. Your territory will extend from the desert to Lebanon, and from the great river, the Euphrates, to the Mediterranean Sea in the west. No one will be able to stand against you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Be strong and courageous, because you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to their ancestors to give them. Please continue to read chapter 1. You can read chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, and chapter 4 to understand more of what happened. River Jordan, then to Gilgal, then from Gilgal they had now to start battle with the Canaanite. The first city that they captured was Jericho, where Joshua was ordered to kill and destroy everyone but spare Rahab the prostitute, who had hidden the spies as they went to spy the city of Jericho. So that is where we are going. That will be the end of the video. Jericho, okay? Jordan, then Gilgal, then to Jericho. So guys, enjoy the video, and I love you so much for your time. I appreciate your support. God bless you. So the other side is Jordan country. You can see the flag. Here there is a border. Even the waters are divided. You see, the waters are divided. You cannot cross where you see. You see where the pastor and the other one is. They cannot cross the other side. That is Jordan country. Joshua chapter 3. Crossing the Jordan. Early in the morning, Joshua and all the Israelites set out from Shittim and went to the Jordan, where they camped before crossing over. After 3 days, the officers went throughout the camp, giving orders to the people. When you see the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God and the Levitical priests carrying it, you are to move out from your possessions and follow it. Then you will know which way to go, since you have never been this way before. But keep a distance of about 2,000 cubits between you and the ark. Do not get near it. Joshua told the people, consecrate yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do amazing things among us. Joshua said to the priests, take up the ark of the covenant and pass on ahead of the people. So they took it up and went ahead of them. As the Lord said to Joshua, today I will begin to exhort you in the eyes of all Israel, so that they may know that I am with you as I was with Moses. Tell the priests who carry the ark of the covenant, when you reach the edge of the Jordan's water, go and stand in the river. Joshua said to the Israelites, come here and listen to the words of the Lord your God. This is how you will know that the living God is among you, and that he will certainly drive out before you all the Canaanites, Hittites, Hivites, Perizzites, Girgashites, Amorites, and Jebusites. See, the ark of the covenant of the Lord of all the earth will go into the Jordan ahead of you. Now then, choose 12 men from the tribes of Israel, one from each tribe. And as soon as the priests who carry the ark of the Lord of all the earth, set foot in the Jordan, its waters flowing downstream will be cut off and stirred up in a heap. So when the people broke camp to cross the Jordan, the priest carrying the ark of the covenant went ahead of them. Now the Jordan is at flood stage or during harvest. Yet, as soon as the priests who carried the ark reached the Jordan and their feet touched the water's edge, the water from upstream stopped flowing. It piled up in a heap a great distance away at a town called Adam in the vicinity of Zaredam. While the water flowing down to the Sea of Alava or Araba, that is the Dead Sea, was completely cut off. So the people crossed over opposite Jericho. The priests who carried the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord stopped in the middle of the Jordan and stood on dry ground, while all Israel passed by until the whole nation had completed the crossing on dry ground. Wow. And now from Jordan River, we are heading to Gilgal. And on our way, we are going to read the book of Joshua, chapter 4, because there's something that happened here at Jordan River on their way to Gilgal.
Okay, tara. Ayos na kayo?
On our way to Gilgal. Gilgal. The first camp of Israelites after crossing Jordan River. The land of Canaan. Joshua chapter 4. Joshua chapter 4. When the whole nation had finished crossing the Jordan, the Lord said to Joshua, "Choose 12 men from among the people, one from each tribe, and tell them to take up 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan, from right where the priests are standing, and carry them over with you and put them down at the place where you stay tonight." So Joshua called together the 12 men he had appointed from the Israelites, one from each tribe, and said to them, "Go over before the ark of the Lord your God into the middle of the Jordan. Each of you is to take up a stone on his shoulder, according to the number of the tribes of the Israelites, to serve as a sign among you. In the future, when your children ask you, 'What do these stones mean?' tell them that the flow of the Jordan was cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord. When it crossed the Jordan, the waters of Jordan were cut off. These stones are to be a memorial to the people of Israel forever." So the Israelites did as Joshua commanded them. They took 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan, according to the number of the tribes of the Israelites, as the Lord had told Joshua, and they carried them over with them to their camp, where they put them down. Joshua set up the 12 stones that had been in the middle of the Jordan at the spot where the priests who carried the ark of the covenant had stood. And they are there to this day. And that is where we are going. That is where we are heading. Now, the priests who carried the ark remained standing in the middle of the Jordan until everything the Lord had commanded Joshua was done by the people, just as Moses had directed Joshua. The people hurried over, and as soon as all of them had crossed, the ark of the Lord and the priests came to the other side while the people watched. The men of Reuben, Gad, and the half tribe of Manasseh crossed over, ready for battle, in front of the Israelites, as Moses had directed them. About 40,000 armed for battle crossed over before the Lord to the plains of Jericho for war. So you can see that the tribes of Reuben, the Gad and half tribe of Manasseh They have already settled on that side of Jordan, but they have crossed over, the men for battle. They have crossed over as God had commanded Moses. Verse 14. That day the Lord exalted Joshua in the sight of all Israel, and they stood in awe of him all the days of his life, just as they had stood in awe of Moses. Then the Lord said to Joshua, command the priests carrying the ark of the covenant, lo, to come up out of the Jordan. So Joshua commanded the priests, come up out of the Jordan. And the priests came up carrying the ark of the covenant of the Lord. No sooner had they set their feet on the dry ground than the waters of the Jordan returned to their place and ran at flood stage as before. On the 10th day of the first month, the people went up from the Jordan and camped at Gilgal on the eastern border of Jericho. And Joshua set up at Gilgal the 12 stones they had taken out of the Jordan. He said to the Israelites, in the future, when your descendants ask their parents, what do these stones mean? Tell them, Israel crossed the Jordan on dry ground. For the Lord your God dried up the Jordan before you until you had crossed over. The Lord your God did to the Jordan what he had done to the Red Sea, when he dried it up before us until we had crossed over. He did this so that all the peoples of the earth might know that the hand of the Lord is powerful, and so that you might always fear the Lord your God. Amen. I'm at Gilgal, the first campground of the Israelites after crossing the Jordan River to come to the promised land. Joshua chapter 5. Circumcision and Passover at Gilgal. At that time, the Lord said to Joshua, make flint knives and circumcise the Israelites again. So Joshua made flint knives and circumcised the Israelites at Gibeath Halalot. Now this is why he did so. All those who came out of Egypt, all the men of military age, died in the wilderness on the way after leaving Egypt. All the people that came out had been circumcised, but all the people born in the wilderness during the journey from Egypt had not. The Israelites had moved about in the wilderness 40 years until all the men who were of military age when they left Egypt had died, since they had not obeyed the Lord. For the Lord had sworn to them that they would not see the land he had solemnly promised their ancestors to give us, a land flowing with milk and honey. So he raised up their sons in their place. And these were the ones Joshua circumcised. They were still uncircumcised because they had not been circumcised on the way. And after the whole nation had been circumcised, they remained where they were in camp until they were healed. Then the Lord said to Joshua, today I have rolled away the reproach of Egypt from you. So the place has been called Gilgal to this day.
Like less than 30 kilometers, and yung lalim niya, the depth of the Jordan River is around 50 meters. So that's wide. So it might be that the Jordan River is occupying all that plain valley with the time of Jericho. So that's the possibility or the probability of the study in the Old Testament time. And then what else? So those stones are for the memory of the crossing. That's why these stones is called as the stones of remembrance. So I suggest before we leave this place, you can pick up tiny stones as a remembrance that you were here, you set foot on Gilgal, all right, and put some notes, some signs on that stones. When you go back home in the Philippines, all the biblical places that you've been in Israel, I hope you've collected all the stones and you write the names in all those stones as a memory that you set foot in all those biblical sites in the land of Israel. Now let's continue our study. And then verse 23. For the Lord your God dried up the waters of Jordan. Listen up. It was the Lord who dried up the water of Jordan until ye were passed over, as the Lord your God did to the Red Sea. Now, could you remember the story of the Red Sea? So God also divided the Red Sea, and that is more bigger, wider, deeper than the Jordan River. So, what else? Which he dried up from before us until we were gone over, that all the people of the earth might know the hand of the Lord, that it is mighty, that you might fear the Lord your God forever. Now what's the purpose of those stones? For remembrance of what the Lord has done unto the people of Israel. It's a memory that God showed unto them the mighty power of God when they crossed the Red Sea and when they crossed the Jordan River. The third purpose of that stone that is known from Jordan River is that the people of Israel might fear the Lord God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob forever. So that's the purpose of stones. You know what? It's a good thing that we think about a stone of Israel. By the way, if you go to the cemetery of Israel, this culture in the Old Testament time.
Hallelujah. The place where God removed the reproach of Egypt from Israel. Passover at Gilgal of Joshua chapter 5 verse 9. Then the Lord said to Joshua, today I have rolled away the reproach of Egypt from you. So the place has been called Gilgal to this day. On the evening of the 14th day of the month, when camped at Gilgal, on the plains of Jericho, the Israelites celebrated the Passover. The day after the Passover, that very day, they ate some of the produce of the land, unleavened bread and roasted grain. The manna stopped the day after they ate this food from the land. There was no longer any manna for the Israelites, but that year they ate the produce of Canaan. So manna stopped here at Gilgal. On our way to Jericho from Gilgal. Thank you, guys. Joshua chapter 5 from verse 13. The fall of Jericho. Joshua chapter 5 verse 13 to 15. The fall of Jericho. Now, when Joshua was near Jericho, he looked up and saw a man standing in front of him with a drawn sword in his hand. Joshua went up to him and asked, "Are you for us all for our enemies? Neither, he replied, but as commander of the army of the Lord, I have now come. Then Joshua fell face down to the ground in reverence and asked him, "What message does my Lord have for his servant?" The commander of the Lord's army replied, "Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy." And Joshua did so. Joshua chapter 6. Now the gates of Jericho were securely barred because of the Israelites. No one went out and no one came in. Then the Lord said to Joshua, "See, I have delivered Jericho into your hands, along with its king and its fighting men. March around the city once with all the armed men. Do this for 6 days. Have 7 priests carry trumpets of ram's horns in front of the ark. On the 7th day, march around the city 7 times with the priests blowing the trumpets. When you hear them sound a long blast on the trumpets, have the whole army give a loud shout. Then the wall of the city will collapse and the army will go up, everyone straight in." So Joshua, son of Nun, called the priests and said to them, "Take up the ark of the covenant of the Lord and have 7 priests carry trumpets in front of it." And he ordered the army, "Advance, march around the city with an armed guard going ahead of the ark of the Lord." When Joshua had spoken to the people, the 7 priests carrying the 7 trumpets before the Lord went forward, blowing their trumpets, and the ark of the Lord covenant followed them. The armed guard marched ahead of the priests who blew the trumpets, and the rear guard followed the ark. All this time, the trumpets were sounding, but Joshua had commanded the army, "Do not give a war cry. Do not raise your voices. Do not say a word until the day I tell you to shout. Then shout." So he had the ark of the Lord carried around the city, circling it once. Then the army returned to camp and spent the night there. Remember, the camp is in Gilgal. Joshua got up early the next morning, and the priests took up the ark of the Lord. The 7 priests, carrying the 7 trumpets, went forward, marching before the ark of the Lord and blowing the trumpets. The armed men went ahead of them, and the rear guard followed the ark of the Lord while the trumpets kept sounding. So on the 2nd day, they marched around the city once and returned to the camp. They did this for 6 days. On the 7th day, they got up at daybreak and marched around the city 7 times in the same manner, except that on that day they circled the city 7 times. The 7th time around, when the priests sounded the trumpet's blast, Joshua commanded the army, "Shout, for the Lord has given you the city. The city and all that is in it are to be devoted to the Lord. Only Rahab, the prostitute, and all who are with her in her house shall be spared, because she hid the spies we sent. But keep away all the devoted things, so that you will not bring about your own destruction by taking any of them. Otherwise, you will make the camp of Israel liable to destruction and bring trouble on it. All the silver and gold and the articles of bronze and iron are sacred to the Lord and must go into his treasury." When the trumpet sounded, the army shouted, and the sound of the trumpets, when the men gave a loud shout, the wall collapsed. So everyone charged in, and they took the city. They devoted the city to the Lord and destroyed with the sword every living thing in it, men and women, young and old, cattle, sheep, and donkeys. Joshua said to the 2 men who had spied out the lad, "Go into the prostitute's house and bring her out, and all who belong to her, in accordance with your oath to her." So the young men who had done the spying went in and brought out Rahab, her father and mother, her brothers and sisters, and all who belonged to her. They brought out her entire family and put them in a place outside the camp of Israel. Then they burnt the whole city and everything in it, but they put the silver and gold and the articles of bronze and iron in the treasury of the Lord's house. But Joshua spared Rahab the prostitute with her family and all who belonged to her, because she hid the men Joshua had sent as spies to Jericho, and she lives among the Israelites to this day. At that time, Joshua pronounced the solemn oath, "Cast before the Lord is the one who undertakes to rebuild the city Jericho. At the cost of his firstborn son, he will lay its foundations. At the cost of his youngest, he will set up its gates." So the Lord was with Joshua, and his fame spread throughout the land.